Hello and welcome to another episode of ISO 400. I am your host, Julius Motal. This week I'm talking with Lauren Wells, a New York-based photographer who came to photography fairly recently, about 5 or 6 years ago after a 16-year career in corporate law. She knew that photography was her way out, and so she made the jump, and she's been making it work ever since. As always, our music is provided by Yuki Futami, a New York-based jazz musician. Thanks so much and hope you enjoy. Welcome to ISO 400. Thanks so much for taking the time to do this. From what I know and from when we've spoken before, you came to photography later, after, I think, what was it, the 15 or 16-year career as a lawyer?
Yes.
Now,
True.
did you pick up photography while you were practicing law, or was it something that was kind of outside that you wanted to go to?
No, I picked it up well, it wasn't coincidentally. I picked it up while I was still a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
I was between jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hoping that I was between careers at the time.
Sure.
I was trying to leave the corporate world and never come back. And I took some time off
Mm-hmm.
and decided to go traveling abroad for 6 months.
Very nice.
Yeah, and back then I was lucky enough to have the resources to do
Sure.
that. And I decided, well, I'd like to take pictures, so I should probably learn how to use a camera. So I took a 5-session class,
Mm-hmm.
5 classes, basically what is an aperture, what is shutter speed, and how to
Sure.
frame a picture. And I I used my dad's, my dad had a Ricoh SLR.
Okay.
And I started playing around with that, and then I went traveling, and I fell in love, obsessed.
Mm-hmm.
Primarily because it really forced me to focus on every detail,
Sure.
whether it was the sights, the sounds, the smells, everything. And it was such a great way to be focused and stay interested and curious. Sure. So I took pictures of koala bears and cute kids and flowers and little sea otters on their back, and I thought, oh wow, this is great. And I mean, they were snapshots, but
Sure.
I didn't know better.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a good thing because I was loving it. And if had someone told me back then, oh yeah, this is, these are snapshots, I probably wouldn't have continued. So so that's how I got the bug.
Sure. Now, I'm guessing you were shooting film. It was a Ricoh
Yeah.
SLR. Were you shooting color, black and white, both?
Color.
Color.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was only color. Maybe, yeah, that's what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got sucked. When I came back home, I unintentionally got sucked back into the corporate world for another 5 years.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's a long story. Only time, but the photography stuck with me. So it was a nice balance to forcing myself out of bed in the morning to go to a job at least 8 hours a day, which something I didn't like, at least have the photography to something to connect to. So I would walk to work, which was about 45-minute walk, and I would take pictures.
Very nice. So what was the point at which you realized I'm ready to dive into this full time? The point at which you're ready to leave corporate permanently and really take this on? And what was it like in those first couple of months, I guess, where you didn't have a steady set, I guess, life, work style?
Right. Well, there's 2 parts to that. I realized in 2005, when I was still at this job, I had taken a vacation to Greece, and I did a photography workshop there, which I just loved. And I mean, it was Santorini. You can't take a bad picture with your eyes closed.
Yeah.
So again, that was kind of misleading, but I just said, I came back and I said, this is what I want to do with my life. And I was working part-time at the time, earning a full-time salary.
Whoa.
It was just one of these lucky things.
Sure.
And so I said, I'm so lucky. I have the time and the resources. I'm going to go to school for photography because I didn't know any better about anything. And as soon as I got back, we had just gotten a new management, and my new boss said, "You need to work full time."
Okay.
It was 3 months till the end of the year, so I said, "Oh, I'll stay. I'll get my bonus, and then I'll leave." And the bonus was postponed till March, and then June, and then by June I said, "Well, there's only 6 months more to get another bonus," and that went on for 5 years. So finally, I had the courage to quit. Basically, I got a little scary medical report, and I knew intuitively that I had to let go of this because I was holding on for safety and security, and it was kind of killing me inside. So I quit. After I got that doctor's report, in 3 weeks, I was out of there.
Yeah.
And then my health improved. So it was, at the beginning, it was great just to be free and not to have to spend all my energy pleasing somebody else.
Sure.
Basically, my company. I was exhausted.
Yeah.
I needed time to just hear myself, and I didn't have anyone to blame anymore about why I wasn't happy doing something. And so I really just took some time. It was a few months to just be quiet and really not do anything. And then once the spring came around, that was in the winter, and once the spring came, I started shooting again and doing events for friends, and kind of just, my brother had asked me to shoot some stuff for interiors that it was interior photography, so I had to learn that. And I just started figuring it out.
Yeah.
And it wasn't scary at the time because I still had savings.
Well, sure.
And then it got scary later on when those savings ran out.
Sure. And you, how did you, so you offer like a wide range of services I've seen on your website. Right. Do you find you have to like reframe your mind going from thing to thing? Because some photographers usually just do portraits or just do weddings.
Right.
How do you move from assignment to assignment, especially if you got like several stacked in a row and each one is a different thing?
Right. That's a good question. First of all, I've always been jack of all trades, master of none, even in the law, and it's an anomaly. People they train something in something specific, and I didn't really have. So there's a constant throughout. I mean, light is light.
Yeah, of course.
And being patient with your clients. There's not a lot of difference. I think I have to gear up just mentally. If I'm doing an event and that's 5 hours on my feet with 2 cameras on one on each shoulder, and I have to be mentally and physically prepared for that. Versus if I'm doing a family shoot, it's a lot of sometimes hand holding and a lot of patience when they're children. And also the different needs of the clients. A lot of times, if I do events, there's not a lot of retouching involved. It's just kind of making sure color is corrected. But if I'm doing family, it's often that a mother will want to look a certain way, and they see themselves differently than I see them. I don't see the flaws in people. I mean, I don't think anyone sees the flaws in someone else. Like, we all see our own flaws very differently than the outside world. And I have to be kind of sympathetic to that. And that took a while for me to, people want every wrinkle erased or something. And so, but other than that, it's pretty similar. Just in terms of probably also lighting. With events, I do on-camera lighting, which is just very simple. I don't need a lot of gear. And I may bounce it or use a diffuser. But if I'm doing a portrait or family, I have to bring gear, and that's a lot more technical. And can compete with my creativity, because I have to make sure everything is
Yeah. Yeah.
going well.
Do you think your career in law gave you a good mind for the business side of photography, and what was it like learning that?
Um, it gave me a good mind to do everything that's necessary in terms of paperwork and all the monotony that most photographers can't stand. I'm
Sure.
just used to doing it, whether I like it or not. It's kind of
Yeah.
second nature to me. So it doesn't get in the way. Oh God, I need a contract. I have to draw up a contract. No, yeah, I'll draw it up, or I have my own templates, or
Right.
I don't know that it's helped me in terms of marketing, but in
Okay.
terms of, yeah, because that's a different
It's a
animal.
whole, yeah, yeah.
Right. But the detail, the kind of grunt work, the paperwork, I have no problem with that. So
Okay.
yeah.
Very nice. And how did you develop a taste for black and white photography? Now, is all your street work in black and white, or?
It is now. I think
Okay.
it started in color.
Okay.
And I was very attracted to color, never thought to shoot in black and white, really, at least not at this point or at that point. And I had a portfolio review, and it was very graphic, very bold color. It was street photography, but the color was more, it took up more space,
Sure.
dominated more than anything else in the picture. And I think it was Holly Hughes who I had, one of the portfolio reviewers said to me, in addition to critiquing my work and saying, well, it's not, I don't know who you are by looking at this stuff. She said, who knows, maybe a year or two from now when I see you again, you'll be doing black and white. And I remember walking out of there thinking, I don't think so. And so never say never.
Yeah.
It was just, there's something, when I started to kind of find a voice, I started focusing on the people more. And the color was getting in the way. I would love to be able to merge the color with people or what I'm trying to capture, but it's hard, at least for me. So it's a simpler way to do what I'm trying to do, and also just visually, because I shoot a lot in the city, and so you see my Coney Island pictures.
Yes.
But I'll have subway pictures and just random street pictures, and the environments are different aesthetically and color-wise, and they kind of don't all go together.
Yeah.
And everything in black and white, there's more of a cohesive quality as a body of work, being New York City.
Of course.
So that's another reason.
Yeah. And when you go out on the street, do you think in projects, or do you kind of let the day surprise you?
I let the day surprise me before I have a project. So the first time I went to Coney Island was just a day.
Sure.
That ended up turning into a project only because I enjoyed myself so much. I just kept going back. The subway is turning into a project because I'm always on it. So I shoot there.
Of course.
I think I had one project that I started last summer, which is just kind of sitting there in purgatory, where I intentionally went to Spanish Harlem to check out a stickball league. And I don't know where I came up with that, whether I came across it on the internet, I don't know. But that was the one time recently that I won season, so I didn't get enough. I didn't check it out enough to know if there's anything in there, but I may continue to revisit. Who knows?
Yeah. And you had mentioned starting to recognize... Are we good?
Yeah, you're just a little pixelized, but pixelated.
It's Skype. It happens. But you had mentioned starting to at least maybe slightly realize that your voice as a photographer, and like when did that happen for you? Like, was it a thought where you go like, "Oh, wait, this is me"?
I remember it clearly. It was a weird day in a good way.
Okay.
So when I am photographing, or I try to do this no matter what I'm doing, I try to kind of, it's not really a formal meditation, but I try to just get all the distractions out of my head and get present to where I am and not have any expectations. And I was doing this on my way to Union Square. I was going to shoot, and I felt something where I was kind of buzzing. And I said, wow, this is interesting. And sure enough, I came across two boys. They were brothers with a dog and their father.
Okay.
And I just started shooting like I do without asking permission.
Of course.
I spent 30 minutes to an hour there. They did not say one word to me. The father did not come up to me and ask, what am I doing? And I had a wide angle lens, so I was really close to his kids.
Yeah, of course.
It was almost like I was invisible. They knew I was there, but they completely ignored me, and it was the greatest thing.
Don't we all wish for that?
Yeah, that's never happened to me again, by the way.
Okay.
But that was a special moment. And those were the first set of pictures that I said, oh, I like that. There's something there. Whereas before, I don't know what I'm thinking. It's sort of like before you've ever fallen in love, you kind of question, well, is this it? Is this it? And then this. And when I saw these pictures, it was like, oh, this feels right or looks right. I like this.
And what was it about the pictures? Was it the composition? Was it the light or the emotions that were present in the photos?
It was, the composition was, it was less the composition, and that's what I kind of always go for, but at least the first part of the process. But there was, I don't know, it was a poignancy or something about just these boys playing. There was a tenderness maybe to it that I felt.
Sure.
An innocence.
Yeah, no, I hear you. The thing I find with at least my own practice of street photography is that there's always at least one shot that you miss, that you have your camera but you're not quite ready, or the camera's in your bag and you see it happen and it's gone. I'm still learning how to deal with that, and I'm wondering what it's been like for you.
I'm sure just as frustrating as it is for you and everybody. There are people who still remember that one photo they missed. It's like golf. I don't play golf, but everybody remembers when they. Shot. Yeah. I talk to myself and I say, get over it, basically. And then I move on, but I have to work through it. And then as long as, if I get another shot that's about of something else, then that makes up for it immediately. And if I don't, I will at least make sure I had a good time. Whether I met interesting people or I had a conversation, I connected with someone. I try to enjoy just being out and not hoping to get a photo, because then I don't like expectations. I used to have a lot of them when I went out shooting, and it was getting stressful.
Sure.
And
so how did you learn to let go of expectations when you go out to shoot?
Because they never met, the actuality never met my expectations. And it was annoying. It was, it was just a waste of energy.
Yeah.
And, I think that happens with anything in life, really. So, and I will, again, talk myself out of it. And just and also when you have expectations, or at least when I do, you have blinders on in a
Sure.
sense, and you may miss a whole new doorway
Yeah.
that leads you somewhere else. And if it's trying to fit a round peg into a square hole, or
Yeah.
vice versa, however you say that. And it stopped being. It takes the fun out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I hear you. Something I've noticed, particularly with the Coney Island work and the subway work too, your images are like wonderfully composed, and they're very crisp images, like with the light and the contrast and the shadows and everything. How did you develop your visual style? Are there particular photographers whose work you look to, at least maybe on a semi-frequent basis? How did that all develop?
Well, like probably a lot of people at some point, Cartier-Bresson was the first, the foray into this kind of thing. When he died, I think it was 2004. I had no idea who he was or anybody else.
Sure.
And he had just died, so Charlie Rose, the talk show host,
Right.
I watched, and I was just stunned. Like, I'd never seen anything like that before. So I went out and got a book, and his geometry was something.
Oh yeah.
Sure, somewhere in my unconscious, he was in my brain. I mean, I love all the Gene Richards and. So how did I develop a style? It just happened. And when it happened, it was actually with those Coney Island pictures, where I don't know how I think it's sort of like a gestation period that all the stuff that I had been exposed to and learning just kind of came out at that time. And whereas in the past I had other ways of creating and taking photos, and it didn't hit me. So I kept working at it, and this was something that resonated with me and was part of an expression of myself, so to speak. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I have had a Bresson period. I think a lot of photographers, like when they first learn of Bresson and the decisive moment, like it kind of hangs over them like a cloud, and it kind of follows them and like, kind of dictates everything that they do. I mean, did you have that, and if you did you find a way to move past it?
Yeah. No, I didn't really ever have that because the first thing I was taught was to work a situation.
Sure.
So, I mean, decisive moment, I don't really, I mean, but actually that said, there is something to be said about maybe the moment before the kiss is more interesting than the kiss.
Sure.
But I don't just, like he would say, oh, click, and then move on. That's how he would kind of explain it, although I don't know that was completely accurate. But no, I will work a situation as long as I can, past the time I think I have the photo.
Yeah.
As long as the scene is changing somewhat.
Sure.
So I never really had that issue.
Okay, good. That's good to hear. And how, like, I remember you were telling me when I had interviewed you about the Coney Island work, you had well over 1,000 images, which is a lot to work with. How did you, is something I kind of struggle with, but how did you learn to edit your own work?
Well, first off, most of those 1,000 were not any good. So
okay, well that helps.
Or I was working a scene and there were a lot of the same ones, and I found the best one. Editing, I think, is always the hardest thing for any artist. I think putting it away for a while. just getting some space. I mean, even when I shoot events,
Yeah.
if I shoot a wedding and I download everything and I'm like, oh, that's so good. And wow, they're going to be so pleased. And then I come back to it 2 weeks later and I'm like, oh, wait, that's not, it's not exactly what I thought it was. So you really have to detach and forget what you were feeling because it unconsciously affects how you see. So yeah, just getting a little distance between in terms of time.
Okay. And you shoot digital? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I shoot only digital.
That and the distancing can be tough with digital because it's so instantaneous. Because you can just like turn on, like just check on the LCD. How did you learn to like not look at it immediately? Like when did you realize
Well,
I
I
need to?
do look at it immediately.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I look on the back, at least the first picture to make sure exposure's right or
Sure.
whatever. But and then I'll download them. So I'm looking at them to see that they're downloaded, but then I'll just put it away and do something else.
Yeah.
There's sometimes I know immediately that I like something.
Oh yeah, of course.
Not sure. Well, I just found a picture recently that I took 2 months ago, and I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I came back to it 2 months later, and I said, oh yeah, it's not bad, and I liked it, and I put it on my website.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that distancing is just. I do look at it, but I put it away. I come back to it.
Yeah. And you're fairly active online too. And how did you get involved in the online community? How has it, if at all, informed your photography?
It was great for me at a certain point because it provided an instant community, which I hadn't had before, and it was a great place. All of those sites to share work and meet people, and just get inspired and learn collectively. And then, like anything, it's less. I participate sometimes, but it doesn't drive me like it used to, because I think when I was starting and I hadn't found my footing yet, it was kind of, well, I don't know if this is any good, and let me share and get feedback. But those things turn into, if somebody's your friend, they end up liking your photo. It just, and I'm kind of clueless like that because I don't tend to do that as much. If I like your photo, I like it, and if you're my friend and I don't like it, I'm not going to hit like.
It's good. It's good to do that. To not enable.
But I was naive. I really did. And then I started seeing it. People they're trying to be nice or whatever they're doing. It's a culture that, it's very misleading. So.
Yes. I've seen that too with the various street photo Facebook groups I have kind of wandered through.
Yeah.
So when did you start to have, I guess, strength in your own convictions, like your own views on photography? And like when did it kind of slope off, like the online aspect for you?
I would say in the last year or a little over a year. And it's just like anything. You go through phases where something is a good fit, and then it's not anymore, and maybe it will be. You'll come back to it, but it's I'm at the point now, and this may change because I'm also going through a bit of I'm competing with myself.
Sure.
It's like, well, I've seen that picture 10 times. I don't want to take it again. I forgot what you.
Having strength in your own convictions, like your own ideas about photography, what makes a good photograph.
I just in the last year or so, and now I don't care if somebody likes a photo. If I like it, I know why I like it, and I feel confident. There are times I'm certainly willing to hear feedback and critique.
Sure.
But there's also, you get to a point where it's just an opinion, where it's a sense of style that I just don't like that for whatever reason, and I do like it for whatever reason, and it doesn't matter to me anymore if I like it.
Yeah.
So I guess my voice is, it's like anything, you put enough time in, you start to see results. And so at this point, I'm happy having found a sense of my style. But again, that we'll see.
Who knows?
Talk to me in 2 weeks. Right.
Okay. So it seems like you sometimes, as we all do, go through slumps, creative slumps, photographic slumps. What do you do to kind of climb out of the hole? Do you have ways in which you deal with the creative impasse?
Not really. I freaked out. I think I wrote something about this, or I did write something about this a year or two ago, where I was just starting to take pictures that I was pleased with, and I was having so much fun, and I thought, all right, I got it.
Right.
And then the winter came, and it was just blank. You know how what is the lifeline when the line just goes? Yeah. There was nothing there.
Yeah. And
I got really scared. And then I just kind of went with it, and I realized it was the winter blues. And when the spring came, I was really inspired again. And this year, it's lasted a little longer, and I wouldn't say I'm in a slump, but I'm just not I don't see as much. And it's about trusting the process. And my process is, it's not, and just kind of allowing that and knowing or having the faith that it does come back. And because I make money doing for clients, and creativity part is just for me, it's, why am I going to beat my head against the wall to get water from a stone if it's not there at that moment? So I've just learned to be okay with it, and so far it's come back.
That's good.
So when it goes away, I trust it's going to come back in.
And when you're on the street, do you find you prefer photographing alone? Do you like photographing in groups? Like, what's your...
I cannot multitask. I don't know how to photograph in groups. I
hear you.
Because I don't know how, which is why I also don't bring my camera if I'm going to meet a friend for lunch or something. I don't want to, I can't be present in both, and it kind of sucks the life out of both. I can't shoot in groups. I'll meet people, and then we'll go our separate ways and meet back at a certain time. But I just don't know how to do that. It's a very solitary thing for me. And seeing takes quiet. Like, I can't be talking to somebody or so.
And when you're on the street, like, what's in your bag? Do you one camera, one lens? Like, what's the technical side of it for you?
One camera, one lens. I still have a big camera. I use a Canon 5D Mark II with a 16 to 35 millimeter lens. It's big and heavy. And basically that's because that's the camera I got years ago when I was thinking about photojournalism and other stuff like that. And it's what I have. So it's what I use. But and then I look like a tourist. I carry a money belt because I don't want to have anything else to worry about. So I'll go through, the guys in Times Square handed me the bus tour pamphlets and but I just want things streamlined, and the camera's heavy enough. I don't want to lug. So hopefully there'll be some money coming in soon, and I'll get a smaller camera.
Yeah.
Do
you think the tourist approach helps when photographing on the street?
I see what you're saying. Yeah, those people I'm not photographing so much. I don't know. I think that being female is helpful.
How do you figure?
I think because I'm not threatening.
Yeah.
I really think it hurts in other areas, but I think for me, I've gotten the crap. People have balled the shit out of me.
Oh dear.
But that's just par for the course. But I think overall, I'm kind of harmless, so people don't get too angry if they catch me.
Harmlessness helps. Have you had conflicts on the street? Have there been particular moments where you've had to kind of like explain what you're doing?
Yeah. People ask me a lot of times if I photograph, especially photographing children.
That's rough.
I will sort of believe that I got tacit consent because the parents saw me, and maybe they smiled.
Right.
So I think, oh, that's the green light.
Right.
But sometimes they'll approach me and say, "What are you doing? And who are you? And why are you taking pictures of my child?" And I'll give them a card and I'll tell them I'm a photographer and you can look online if you'd like me to send you a picture. Usually they're okay with, but there was one woman in Harlem. Oh boy, did she gave it to me.
What happened?
And she was right. I was kind of sneaking it, and she saw me. She turned around and saw me, and she said, "Delete that right now. You asked permission. Do you know how you could get punched in the face for doing this? You really need to be careful." She was worried. It's her child. I get it.
Yeah,
and sometimes, yeah. So, and at the end, she was calling me sister and all.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, but a lot of times, people get angry, and it's just part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't let it get you.
Well, sure. Was it something you kind of had to develop sort of an elevator pitch for? Because I know the first couple of times I got confronted, I was kind of like scrambling for words because it trips you up. Like you never expect to get caught, and then you get caught, and you're like, what?
Right. Deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
No, I usually be honest, and I'll say something like, well, I love children, and they were just being so adorable, or just there was a nice moment I wanted to capture, or they won't even give me time to get that in, and I don't have a pitch.
Okay.
I'm caught, and I kind of concede that.
Yeah. So what's next for you, for your photography, like looking forward?
Good question. I don't know. I'm going to continue shooting in New York, but I think I need like a vacation, something to just get away from visually, a different environment. And hopefully when I expect some money coming in, where I can just take a trip somewhere and just get out of Dodge, so to speak. Even though I love New York City, sometimes I need a break.
Any places in mind?
Yeah, Cuba's been calling me for 20 years, and somebody called me the other. Yeah, a good friend of mine is doing trips down there, and I said, "Oh God, yeah, I'd love to go, maybe in the fall." But it's interesting. I've been wanting to go to Cuba since I was in college, and more for the culture and Latin culture is something I love and feel very connected to, and Cuban culture as well. And but to go and photograph there's an expectation that I don't want to have, because Cuba, everybody photographs there.
Yeah.
And I wonder if I'll be able to see anything that interests me that I haven't seen before.
Right.
So if I go, I'm going to really have to make sure I'm not expecting anything. But on the other hand, Coney Island is the equivalent of that to me in terms of everybody's photographed, and I was completely happy photographing there. So who knows?
Yeah. And you managed to carve something out, I think, that is your own, given how much it's been photographed. I mean, there's a clear style and consistency throughout the images. I mean, of the images I've seen. Yeah.
Thank you. So we'll see. The Deep South is a place I'm attracted to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
I'll keep you posted on that.
Yeah, well, yes, please. Something I ask every photographer, and it's kind of tailored to the photographer's experience. If you could give one piece of advice to someone who is looking to leave a career and embrace photography full time, what would that piece of advice be?
Don't get too far ahead of yourself. If you're ready to leave, make sure you're ready for what you don't expect. It might take a while to succeed financially, so make sure you have a plan B, and be where you are, and be okay with that. And what I mean by that is, know that you don't know everything, and that's okay. And so knowing so if you have a plan B, get some experience under your belt. So on Craigslist, whether you're photographing your family or your friends to practice, going on Craigslist, there's people looking for every type of photographer. Sure. They're looking for students because they don't want to pay that much, so they're not expecting hotshot photographer to show up. And just get some experience if you don't have it. And I'm also assuming there are plenty of people that say, don't quit your job until you have, and as far as I'm concerned, if you quit, you're ready. Because it took me 16 years, and then all of a sudden I was ready. I would actually say most importantly is make sure you have someone who supports your decision. Because a lot of people will second who provides you with emotional support. It's so important, because you'll start to think you're crazy for doing what you did, and you need a champion. And I wouldn't share your everything with people who don't support you, because a lot of times they're just they're looking out for you, they're worried, or they're afraid themselves to make a similar move. And so don't share too much with those people, because their judgment, however unintentional, could affect you. So
all right,
that's what I would say.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for watching. This has been ISO 400. If you'd like to see more of Lauren's work, you can go to her website, laurenwells.com, or you can check her out on Facebook, Lauren Wells Photography. And if you like what we do, please hit subscribe down below and share this with your friends. Thanks so much, and see you next time.